Ah, the school play. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Whether you were the star, maybe a talking tree, or just hiding in the back row, we've all been there. It's this whole world of like makeshift costumes, that buzzing nervous energy, and of course, that one kid who speaks way too loud. But there's actually a lot more going on beneath the surface than you might think.
I mean, this quote from Calvin's dad in Calvin and Hobbes just nails it, doesn't it? 25 kids in food suits forgetting their lines, I'll definitely be at work. He totally captured that classic parent perspective. It's seen as this charming, maybe slightly painful rite of passage. And this really sets the stage for what we all expect. A little bit of chaos, some cute moments, and yeah, a whole lot of forgotten lines.
So that shared feeling, it comes from a set of, well-worn traditions. There's basically a formula for the school play, right? A whole collection of cliches and tropes that make it so familiar to all of us and, honestly, so easy to make fun of.
Okay, look at these classic tropes. This list just captures so much of it, doesn't it? You've got the almost guaranteed performance of Romeo and Juliet, the casting that, let's be real, always matches the offstage social ladder. Oh, and the poor kid who has to play a rock or a tree. And what about the drama? The crushes and fights that spill right onto the stage. And I love this one-line anxiety. That person's stressing for weeks over a single line. And of course, the golden rule. The show must go wrong. Something always fails. A set piece falls, a costume rips, and the best part? The audience just thinks it's hilarious and assumes it was all part of the act.
So yeah, it's a predictable formula, it's comfortable, but that's exactly what makes it so powerful when a story decides to just break all the rules. So what happens when the script itself flips the script? What if the play is the most surprising thing on stage?
Well, let's dive into a story that does exactly that. We're going to look at a version of Cinderella that's, let's just say, less about the fairy tale ending and a whole lot more about having a solid career plan.
Okay, so this is the play Cinderella Outgrows the Glass Slipper. And get this, right off the bat, the whole premise is turned completely on its head. The intro tells us that this Cinderella's dream has nothing to do with a ball. Nope, she wants to go to vet school. And her biggest problem isn't her evil stepmother, it's her own fairy godmothers. She's literally trying to convince them that she knows what's best for her own life.
This really lays out the huge shift in the story, right? So your classic Cinderella, she wants to meet the prince and get her happily ever after. But this Cinderella, she wants to go to vet school so she can control her own destiny. And the iconic glass slipper? Phew, forget about it. She is way more interested in a pair of comfy, practical work shoes.
And you can see the main conflict of the play crystal clear in this one exchange. The fairy godmother shows up with the standard fairy tale package, right? You are going to the ball, you will meet a handsome prince, get married, you know the drill. But Cinderella's reaction isn't, oh, thank you, it's pure panic. She tries to interrupt. She's like, no, but I want. But she just gets steamrolled by the sheer force of the traditional fairy tale.
And it all leads to this amazing climactic moment. So the prince finally finds her, but he's not holding a delicate glass slipper. No way. He's holding her sturdy, self-made work shoes. And he kneels down, not to see if the shoe fits, but to admire how well they're made. He literally says, your shoes, they look so comfortable. He's not looking for a princess, he's looking for a good shoemaker. I mean, the entire central symbol of the story is just completely turned on its head. It's brilliant.
So how does the playwright pull this off so well? How do they make this twist so effective? Well, it's not just about changing the plot. Let's pull back the curtain and look at a few key dramatic tools that really make this new story sing.
First up, we've got a super simple but really powerful tool, narration. Just think of it as a guide who's talking directly to us, the audience, explaining what's going on or what a character is thinking. It's basically a shortcut to get us some key information super quickly, and it sets the stage for everything that's about to happen. And boom, we see it used right on the first page of the play. The narrators tell us flat out that, in her heart, she had a secret wish. More than anything in the world, Cinderella wanted to become a veterinarian. Without that little piece of narration, we'd be totally lost. We wouldn't get her motivation. It basically establishes the entire conflict of the play before a single fairy godmother even walks on stage.
Okay, next up is something called an aside. This is a really cool classic theater trick where a character kind of freezes the action, turns to the audience, and shares their inner thoughts directly with us. And the other characters on stage, they have no idea it's happening. It's like we're in on a secret with that character, and it creates this really special bond.
And here's a perfect example of that. Right after a really frustrating moment, Cinderella turns straight to the audience and says, "Can this day get any worse?" And just like that, we are instantly pulled into her world. We feel her frustration. It makes us feel like we're part of her struggle, you know? It puts us firmly on our side against all these outdated expectations she's dealing with.
So all of these tools, the narration, the asides, they're all working towards one big, super important goal: characterization. And that's just a fancy word for the art of building a believable, three-dimensional person on stage. Someone who feels like a real human being, not just some flat cardboard cutout from a storybook.
So by using narration to tell us her unique goals and using asides to let us in on her private frustrations, the playwright gives us this completely new take on Cinderella. She's not a passive damsel in distress just waiting around to be rescued. No, she's an active, modern hero with her own career plan.
Okay, so it's a really clever play that breaks all the rules. That's cool. But why does any of this matter outside of the theater? Well, let's take this idea of flipping the script and connect it to something a little closer to home: the way we think about and tell our own personal stories.
Now, this piece of advice is aimed at writing a college essay, but honestly, the principle applies to any good story you want to tell. It says to focus on the why and the how. Why was this thing memorable, and how did it actually impact you? And that is exactly what our Cinderella play does, right? The story isn't just about a bunch of stuff that happens to her. It's about why it all matters to her and how she decides to take control.
So this really builds into a kind of formula for any great story, whether it's on a stage or on a page. Number 1, veer from the cliché. Do something different, just like the play ditched the typical fairy tale ending. Number 2, show, don't tell. I mean, Cinderella making her own shoes shows us she's practical and hardworking. The script doesn't just say she was practical. And finally, number 3, focus on the growth. The story ends with her achieving her dream and starting her own business. That clearly shows us how much she's changed.
At the end of the day, whether we're talking about a school play or our own life story, what really makes a narrative stick with you is its willingness to break the mold. This Cinderella play, it isn't just about a career change. It's a fantastic model for how challenging a tired old script, like the whole damsel in distress thing, is a really powerful way to define yourself. It shows us something true about personal growth and about the courage it takes to write your own ending.
And that really brings us to a final, bigger question for you to think about. In a world that is just so full of familiar stories and predictable endings, what stories are actually worth retelling? And maybe more importantly, how do we find the courage to rewrite them, to put our own unique spin on them, and to truly, finally, make them our own?